when I was a kid, my mother was a horse woman growing up as a child, and you know, she had a love of horses, and sort of, you know, my parents got married and they lived in a suburban house, and then my father's a farmer at heart and my mother's a horse person, and so they ended up with a little farm with a horse barn, and one thing led to another. I was in the pony club, and back then you didn't have, and now there's, you know, in pony club the specialties, like you can be a specialist now in pony club, not then. Then there was only eventing, that was it. There was no dressage rally, there was no whatever. And I did very well in the dressage and usually got eliminated jumping. So it sort of naturally led to its own conclusion. I don't know why I've always been able to teach a horse things. Just a skill I have for some reason. So it sort of naturally led to teaching a horse to do things that other, you know, maybe a lot of other people aren't good at doing. So sort of went that way. I think my strong point is that I've learned a long time ago I'm good at teaching a horse to do stuff. My weak point is I need to be a better show rider. You know, when I go to the ring, I want it to be just right like a trainer all the time, and if it's not just right, then, you know, it's the I can't be creative under these conditions kind of thing. You know what I mean? I want to be perfect before I go, and sometimes you have to learn to be a little better actor than that. And I think I was getting that sort of relationship with Pasop, with the gray horse, and then this horrible sickness that he got and all this year of ills kind of, I sort of haven't spent a ton of time around him in the last year, and my wife is the one that's built the relationship over the last year, and the thing that I went to with Neruda called the Olympics kind of got in the way of that building, but we're back on it. Well, he got bitten by a brown recluse spider on his leg, which, if you've ever seen what it does to a human, I mean, people lose their hands and their feet from these bites, and it's a horrendous, you know, it's a horrendous affliction to get bitten by this thing. But the problem with a horse is it's this cascade of other things that happens. You know, it's the infection and then the fever, and then they have to give him all this medication to try to cure those situations, and that creates another cascade of stuff. And he just had a very rough time. Exactly a year ago it happened. And I had just come off riding him his first Grand Prix, which he won, and he was great. And so anyway, and thanks to a bunch of vets who really cared, and mostly my wife, Vera, who took it upon herself to see that that horse got well. That horse has gotten well. And an owner who believes in him and says, I don't care what it takes, I'll do everything to see him get well. And so all that combined, and you know, good luck and fingers crossed, and hopefully somebody was helping us someplace here, and he's okay, so keep your fingers crossed. Yeah, I just think this horse has survived something that most horses die from. You know, and somehow because of his he never put a frown on his face, that animal. He was in excruciating pain, he was sick as could be, and he never, ever, ever put a frown on his face. He always had a smile on every single day. And I have another, they asked me when I lived in Chicago many years ago to take on, it was a little girl who had, it's sort of a make-a-wish kind of thing. And this kid came home from school with a limp, and long story short, was diagnosed with an osteogenic sarcoma, and they removed her knee joint and put a prosthetic knee in, and I taught her to ride, and she went to dressage shows, and she won her blue ribbons, and then it all came back, and she died of, you know, osteogenic sarcoma, and the kid never, ever cried, said, why me? You know, regardless of how sick she got, and you know what, that horse reminded me of that, and so he's a survivor, and when these folks came to me and said, can you do this? Yep, and it'll be fun to see if that horse can't do it as a survivor, trying to help out other people to become survivors. You know, a rider in equestrian sports, you're just learning how to be patient and get the job done at 40. You know what I mean? Some of the greatest champions of all time did their first Olympic Games when they were 50. You know, horses are, it's a different deal. You know, you can't, patience is the ultimate fixer of issues with the horse, right? You know what I mean? It really is. And it's a lot easier to be patient at 40 than it is at 20. So I think that, I hope that one of the inspirations of riding is you got your whole, our coach of our team for 8 years was Klaus Balkenhol. Klaus went to his first Olympic Games at 52. You know, I mean, there you go. There's something about, you know, as sports go, riding is that one that there's always hope, because you're not bound by, okay, hey, I'm 35, I'm washed up. 35, you might just be starting. And there are proven examples of people who go out in their 50s. The Olympic Games we had in equestrian, and it's interesting because the Olympic, the USOC or the IOC or all these things, I don't think they quite capitalize enough on the fact that there were so many unique things in equestrian. We had the gap between the youngest and oldest equestrian in the Beijing Olympic Games, human athlete, was 51 years. The little girl from Brazil was 16 and the Japanese man was 67. It's incredible, you know? And he had done his first Olympics in 1964 and his second one in 2008. You know, another girl that trained Pasop to a certain point, and she, at a certain day, said, you know what, I just think he's too big horse for me and too strong for me, and he needs a rider who maybe can take him that last piece along the way. And I knew Chris and I know this girl, and they sent him to, actually it was at the World Cup final in Las Vegas 2 years ago, and I ran into Chris and her husband walking out of the stands. And she said, hey, I wanted to talk to you, and will you take the horse? And I took him, and I got along with him. I understand him. And my wife also, Vera, also just understands and figured out how to ride that horse. And that's part of the thing of dressage, is it's got to be a horse and a rider who understand each other and like each other and get along with each other. And there are certain horses that just one particular rider can do everything with and another rider can't do a thing with. And that's only one of those things that, you know, it's one of the maturities about, it's like if somebody has a child, you know, and I don't care if you wish your child to be a nuclear physicist, he may be a better pianist. You know, let the kid do what he's good at. That's the same with horses. First, find something the horse is good at, and second, you have to get him in the hands of a rider who understands him and works well with him. Because otherwise it doesn't work.